So, lads, this is not the most ideal situation from we're hearing here from Alexa Philippou. And this situation basically means the Indiana Fever, as we know it, can't last more than a year. They can last 1 year. You can still have Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hall, Caitlin Clark for one more year. You can still have them for one more year. But in a year's time, you are guaranteed to lose Kelsey Mitchell. And the fact is that I don't know if you can keep the three of them this year. Because the rumor is Caitlin Clark's contract's about to go up to $700K. It's about to be in line with the 2026 rookies. So Caitlin Clark's contract could go to $700K. The expectation was that Caitlin Clark's contract would be lower. And I want to see did Alexa say in his article what Caitlin's contract could go up to? Sorry. It's only up to $530K, which is not quite as bad. And if you guys agree that it's not quite as bad, subscribe. We are trying to get to 57,750 by the end of the day. Thank you guys so much for the 50 subscribers yesterday. We're still trying to hit that 50 subscriber a day goal. 50 subs a day gets us to 750, or gets us there or thereabouts to 75K in a year's time. And then we're going to be pushing for 100 in the 2027 season. So anyway, this is also a key thing because of the elite player provision. Caitlin Clark, if she wins MVP, it says here she could earn a protected max of 1.3 million in 2027 as an all-W player. She could also sign for 1.7 million Supermax in 2028. So she's basically entitled to a 1.3 million max contract on a 1-year deal. However, she can be cored after that and get a Supermax. If she wants to sign a 3-year deal, obviously she's not signed a 3-year Supermax. It's an interesting one because you see that when it's like she can sign a max in 2027 or a Supermax in 2028. She is literally going to be eligible for the Supermax if she wins MVP. If Caitlin Clark wins MVP, she's going to be on a Supermax. If Aaliyah Boston wins MVP, actually no, Aaliyah Boston's already not won MVP. Sorry, I got to move over to a chair with a back support. My back is quite sore. But Aaliyah Boston has already not won MVP before this trigger, so it is not the end of the world for her. That being said, she's still getting a max contract. So Aaliyah Boston, the expectation is that Aaliyah Boston's going to make around $1.1 to $1.2 million next year, or this year. If the Fever give Kelsey Mitchell the $1.4 million Supermax, and with Caitlin Clark's contract going up, there is a very good chance that you just straight up don't have the money for Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham unless one of them takes a minimum. That's the reality of the situation, is one of them is going to have to take the minimum contract. And I don't see Sophie doing it. I think, again, the odds of both Lexi and Sophie being on the team is low. But this number right here, where it says obviously it can become Supermax in 2028, Caitlin Clark becomes Supermax eligible if she wins MVP immediately. The Caitlin Clark winning MVP in 2026 is not far-fetched. It is not. Look, Caitlin Clark through 4 games her and Fee were the 2 MVP favorites. If Caitlin Clark, let's just say before she picked up that first injury, if she had kept going the way she was going, she was averaging 19.8 points and 10 assists per game through 4 games. I think it was 19.8 points and 10 assists. So if she kept that up, and the Fever, I know they were 2-2, but if they kept up the record that they had with her, they would have been, and for the whole season, I think they were 8-5 in the game she played. They would have been the 4th seed. So they've been a little bit behind the Aces. She would have been putting up those crazy, she would have led the all-time league leader in assists. Had she been healthy for 48 games and just played like she did when she was still a little bit injured, she was in the running for an MVP. Would she have won it? I don't know, but she would have been in the running for it. And that being said, now is oh shit, had she won the MVP last year, she would be eligible, she'd be getting the Supermax, or eligible for the Supermax if she wanted it. Are people being oh, Caitlin Clark won't take the Supermax? I don't know if she does or doesn't. It's a lot of money to turn down. Going from, she'll take below the max when she could get 1.7 million. It's you're what about the off-court endorsements? That logic has never come into effect realistically. You have to to get the big three together, you need the three of them to coordinate. You need Aaliyah to coordinate to take 2/3 of a max. You need Kelsey, Aaliyah, and Caitlin to take 2/3 of what they're eligible for. And it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Like, it's not going to be a situation where you see all three of them in the 850 to 900K range, which is what's going to be needed for them to stay together and build a competent team around them. And then the problem is that even if none of them take the Supermax, you are the only way you can build the rest of the roster if the three of them stay, even if they all just take the regular max next season, is by building an entire team of vet minimum players. The Indiana Fever don't scout overseas. The Indiana Fever only scout in America. They only scout WNBA players. So what does that lead to doing is an established WNBA player is not going to be a minimum player unless they are like on their last legs. And that's why you're overpaying for Sid Colson. That's why you overpaid for Breanna Turner. You gave them way more than the minimum contract. That's why you're overpaying for them, while competent front offices are finding Janelle Salon, who's a starter on a minimum contract. They're finding even a Kiara Linskins is a solid WNBA player. They're finding Lexi Held, an American player who's been killing it overseas. They're finding Kat Westbeld, an American player who killed it overseas for years, but just obviously out of Notre Dame wasn't quite good enough to make it to the league. They're finding these gems. They're looking around at these leagues. They're like seeing, okay, who's killing it? Who's killing it here? Okay, who fits our system? What archetype of player do we need? Who's doing well in these leagues? And the Indiana Fever don't scout overseas. They just scout based on relationships. So the Indiana Fever are just going to get players people have relationships with in the WNBA, and you're not going to get anyone competent for a minimum deal. You have to be creative to get someone on a minimum deal. And that's the problem with the Fever. And it's the problem with the Fever is that they can't keep the three of them because you got nothing else. It's going to be hard. If Aaliyah, thank God Aaliyah Boston is not Supermax eligible. Like, I could see Caitlin Clark taking the max instead of the Supermax, but I don't see Caitlin Clark taking sub $1 million. I don't that's like the logic of people saying, oh, LeBron should go and take the minimum because it gives him a better chance to win a title. He doesn't need the money. It's like, obviously that's always happened, but it's just the principle of it. Like, Scottie Pippen was making a lot in endorsements, but because he was like the 8th highest paid player in his team, it negatively affected him and the team at times. So like, even if you don't need the money, it does affect you, where it's like even fucking Dirk. Like Dirk at times in Dallas when he's like, okay, yeah, I'll take a hometown discount. I'll take the hometown discount. Okay, cool. I'll take less money. Okay, Mark Cuban, let's go and sign Chandler Parsons with that money. So, look, the Caitlin Clark contract has a very good chance of being not even detrimental. I'm not going to even say the Caitlin Clark contract, but this new stipulation has pretty much made it so that Caitlin Clark's contract, unless she's willing to take a historic pay cut of the likes of which we've probably never seen, it's going to be really tough to build a team around her. And I'm going to talk a bit later about the core and trade in Kelsey Mitchell, which sounds better and better every single day. But anyway, I'll see you guys.